When you go to the toilet, shit disappears. You flush it, of course, rationally, you know, it's there in canalization and so on. But at a certain level of your most elementary experience, it disappears from your world. No, you call this porn, my God. When did you have the last meal? Breakfast or down there? Down there. So I mean 1-2 hours later we should maybe go down there and, or do you know any, I mean, you know, at the place where you had your coffee, they do have good menus, you know, like very nice ones, like a simple steak or whatever. They are not bad, I mean. No, they're all vegetarian. Sorry? They're all vegetarian. Degenerates. You will turn into monkeys.
Slavoj Zizek nació en el seno de una familia de clase media el 21 de marzo de 1949, en Ljubljana, capital de la actual Eslovenia, entonces una de las repúblicas que configuraban la antigua Yugoslavia. El hecho de nacer en Yugoslavia y vivir el proceso de desmembración de la república, con la consecuente guerra civil, lo marcó en su personalidad, en su trayectoria intelectual, así como en su paradigma filosófico. Teniendo en cuenta que Yugoslavia era un estado marcado e impregnado por el comunismo autogestionario, discrepante con las directrices políticas de la Unión Soviética y China, esto también se expandió obviamente a ámbitos académicos, ya que la educación marxista que recibió Slavoj Zizek sería seña de identidad en sus futuras tesis. En el aspecto académico, Zizek se formó en filosofía por la Universidad de Ljubljana y estudió psicoanálisis en la Universidad de París, donde se doctoró. Además, obtuvo un puesto en el Instituto de Sociología de la Universidad de Ljubljana, aparte de ostentar cargos de profesor invitado en diversas universidades de renombre, como la Universidad de Columbia, Princeton, Nueva York y Michigan, entre otras. Actualmente tiene un cargo en la Universidad de Londres. Zizek utiliza frecuentemente extractos de la cultura popular, sobre todo del cine, para ejemplificar su pensamiento, desde películas de Hitchcock o Lynch, hasta obras literarias que versan sobre la deshumanización del ser humano y la mecanización de éste, como las de Kafka. Lo más importante para entender su pensamiento es el uso que hace de la teoría psicoanalítica de Lacan como base para explicar su paradigma filosófico.
Un concepto clave para entender el pensamiento de Zizek y cómo aborda las problemáticas sociales es el de realidad virtual. Para explicarlo es necesario remitirnos a los conceptos lacanianos de lo imaginario virtual, lo simbólico virtual y lo real virtual. Basémonos para exponerlo en las explicaciones que hace en su película The Reality of the Virtual. Lo imaginario virtual vendría a ser la imagen idealizada que tenemos cuando interactuamos con otra persona. Imagen de la que borramos los aspectos indeseables o embarazosos de la persona con la que estamos interactuando. Lo simbólico virtual es una creencia común, inconscientemente consensuada, algo que debe de permanecer virtual para así ser realmente efectivo. Zizek pone 3 ejemplos: la autoridad paterna, Santa Claus y la democracia. Son conceptos que deben de permanecer en el plano de lo virtual para cumplir realmente su función. Lo real virtual está dividido en otras 3 partes. Lo real imaginario, que serían imágenes tan fuertes que no pueden ser directamente enfrentadas. Son imágenes tan fuertes que se vuelven reales. Para ejemplificar este concepto, Zizek utiliza el monstruo en la película Alien, algo demasiado fuerte para ser directamente mostrado, pero que está presente durante toda la película. Lo real simbólico serían las fórmulas científicas, en especial la física cuántica. Fórmulas confirmadas que funcionan, pero que no podemos relacionarlas con nuestra experiencia ordinaria de la realidad. Es como una máquina que funciona, y sabemos que funciona, pero sin ningún sentido. Pero lo verdaderamente importante, el gran tema para Zizek que aplica al marco social y al psicoanálisis, es lo real real, que paradójicamente es lo más virtual. Dentro de lo real real hay diferentes partes, pero pongamos únicamente la más importante, el verdadero núcleo de lo real. Debido a que sus explicaciones, como habréis podido observar, son complejas de explicar y muy metafóricas, dejemos que la parte realmente importante, el verdadero núcleo de lo real, sea explicado por Zizek de primera mano. A continuación, veréis un fragmento de su película The Reality of the Virtual.
Let us think about attractors in mathematics or in physics. For example, you have small pieces of iron and you throw them around a magnetic field. They are dispersed, following a certain shape, infinitely approaching this shape, but this shape, of course, is not existing itself. It's just something that you can abstract, isolate from the dispersion of the small pieces of iron. That's the idea of virtual real. It's a shape. This is the real of this field, but it doesn't exist in itself. It's just an abstract form which structures the disposition of actually existing elements around it. Now, what has this to do with psychoanalytic problematic or even more with political problematic? My idea is a lot. Let's think about the precise status of trauma in psychoanalysis. It is similar to this non-existing attractor. That is to say, more closely, Freud shifted his position, as we all know, with regard to trauma. He shifted his position in a way which is, strangely enough, parallel to the shift in Einstein's theory of relativity, the shift from special to general theory of relativity. This shift in theory of relativity concerns the reference to the curved space, curvature of space. As most of us, I hope, know, for Einstein, in the first approach, it was the presence of the density of matter, of stuff, which curved the space. Space was originally perceived as empty space, abstractly was symmetrical, non-curved, then the presence of stuff curves it. But then, in a second step, Einstein accomplished a wonderful reversal. He just turned the terms around. It was not the presence of matter, of stuff, which curves the space. It was, on the contrary, the curvature of the space which was primordial. And what we perceive as matter is just a kind of a reified, fetishist misperception of a purely formal curvature of the space. And I claim it's exactly like this in the psychoanalytic notion of trauma. In the first approach, Freud imagined trauma as some kind of dense, raw presence of some real which brutally intrudes into our symbolic space and curves it. Quite literally. Let's imagine that I have my well-balanced symbolic space, then something traumatic happens to me. I'm raped, I witness a terrifying event, I'm tortured, whatever. And because of the traumatic impact of this event, my symbolic space gets curved. Some things can no longer be symbolized. The function of those symbols has to be taken over with other symbols. There is a kind of imbalance. There is a gap in my symbolic space. This would be the first approach. But then Freud noticed some strange things. What things? Let's recall his best-known analysis of Wolfman. The traumatic scene there, of course, is the small child, Wolfman, witnessing the parental coitus a tergo. But let's look at it in a much more precise way. What effectively happens there? It's not that this was simply a trauma. As a small 1.5-year-old child, Wolfman did not find anything traumatic in this scene. He just perceived it and stored it. It was 3-4 years later when Wolfman started to develop his theories, infantile theories of sexuality, and because he was not able to account for sexuality, in other words, because the symbolic space of his sexual theories was curved, it is only at this point that he resuscitated the traumatic scene. So, I think in clear parallel to Einstein, we can see how here it's the other way around. The primordial fact is not some brutal intrusion of the real, of a traumatic real. The primordial fact, and also the primordial real, is a purely formal imbalance. The symbolic space is curved, it's cut across by an antagonism, imbalanced, and so on. And to account for this, you need a reference to some real, which is, of course, the real in the sense of the traumatic appearance. It's a lure here, a trap. So what does this notion of the virtual real as trauma as virtual, what does this notion mean for politics? Can this serve us to analyze political ideological phenomena? Of course. Let's just recall how anti-Semitism functions. In its fascist version, anti-Semitism, or rather the figure of the Jew, the Jewish plot, is precisely an external trauma which brutally intrudes, disturbing social balance, curving, as it were, the social space. Society was supposed to be harmonious, balanced, then Jews intervened, distorted its, as it were, natural order. But of course, here at least we should be Marxist and turn things around. It's not that there is disorder, antagonism, disintegration, class struggle because of the Jews. Class struggle, or more generally social antagonism, comes first. That is to say, social space is in itself already curved, imbalanced. And in order to imaginarily, in an imaginary way, account for it, we invent the figure of the Jew. That is to say, we project the cause of it into the figure of the Jew.
Zizek realiza un ensayo teórico a través de recursos audiovisuales para mostrar que estos elementos, publicidad, películas, canciones, deben ser considerados como representaciones que configuran nuestras creencias y prácticas en la sociedad. Además, critica el modelo capitalista por transmitir ideales tales como el goce continuo necesario para vivir mediante el consumismo. Es en este punto donde teoriza y reflexiona sobre los deseos y los sueños que transmite la ideología hegemónica. Entonces, el miedo en la sociedad capitalista reside en el momento en el que se deja de desear. Zizek utiliza el marxismo para tratar el fetichismo de la mercancía que transmite la ideología hegemónica capitalista y el psicoanálisis para teorizar sobre los sueños y los deseos que la ideología crea.
I already am eating from the trash can all the time. The name of this trash can is ideology. The material force of ideology makes me not see what I'm effectively eating. It's not only our reality which enslaves us. The tragedy of our predicament when we are within ideology is that when we think that we escape it into our dreams, at that point we are within ideology.
Zizek muestra en Day Live de John Carpenter, a través de la metáfora de las lentes, una crítica a la ideología en el cine hollywoodiense.
That these glasses function like critique of ideology glasses. They allow you to see the real message beneath all the propaganda, publicity, glitz, posters, and so on. We live, so we are told, in a post-ideological society. We are interpellated, that is to say, addressed by social authority, not as subjects who should do their duty, sacrifice themselves, but subjects of pleasures. Realize your true potential, be yourself, lead a satisfying life. When you put the glasses on, you see dictatorship in democracy. It's the invisible order which sustains your apparent freedom. We, in a way, enjoy our ideology. To step out of ideology, it hurts. It's a painful experience. You must force yourself to do it. This is rendered in a wonderful way with a further scene in the film where John Nada tries to force his best friend, John Armitage, to also put the glasses on.
I don't want to fight you. Come on. I don't want to fight you. Stop it. No!
And it's the weirdest scene in the film. The fight takes 8-9 minutes.
Put on the glasses.
It may appear irrational, because why does this guy reject so violently to put the glasses on? It is as if he is well aware that spontaneously he lives in a lie, that the glasses will make him see the truth, but that this truth can be painful, can shatter many of your illusions. This is a paradox we have to accept.
Put the glasses on! Put them on!
The extreme violence of liberation. You must be forced to be free. If you trust simply your spontaneous sense of well-being or whatever, you will never get free.
Look!
Freedom hurts.
En las siguientes escenas, Zizek expone de qué forma ha funcionado la ideología a través del himno de la alegría de Beethoven y cómo este puede ser considerado una crítica a la misma.
What does this famous ode to joy stand for? It's usually perceived as a kind of an ode to humanity as such, to the brotherhood and freedom of all people. And what strikes the eye here is the universal adaptability of this well-known melody. It can be used by political movements which are totally opposed to each other. In Nazi Germany, it was widely used to celebrate great public events. In Soviet Union, Beethoven was lionized and the Ode to Joy was performed almost as a kind of a communist song. In China, during the time of the Great Cultural Revolution, when almost all Western music was prohibited, the Ninth Symphony was accepted. It was allowed to play it as a piece of progressive bourgeois music. At the extreme right, in South Rhodesia, before it became Zimbabwe, it proclaimed independence to be able to postpone the abolishment of apartheid. There, for those couple of years of independent South Rhodesia, again, the melody of the Ode to Joy, with changed lyrics, of course, was the anthem of the country. At the opposite end, when Abimael Guzman, Presidente Gonzalo, the leader of Sendero Luminoso, the Shining Path, the extreme leftist guerrilla in Peru, when he was asked by a journalist which piece of music is his favorite, he claimed again Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, Ode to Joy. When Germans were still divided and their team was appearing together at Olympics, when one of the Germans won golden medal, again, Ode to Joy was played instead of either East or West German national anthem. And even now, today, Ode to Joy is the unofficial anthem of European Union. So it's truly that we can imagine a kind of a perverse scene of universal fraternity where Osama bin Laden is embracing President Bush, Saddam is embracing Fidel Castro, white racist is embracing Mao Zedong, and all together they sing ode to joy. It works. And this is how every ideology has to work. It's never just meaning. It always has to also work as an empty container, open to all possible meanings. Now, of course, there is a catch here. The catch is that, of course, this neutrality of a frame is never as neutral as it is. Here, I think, the perspective of Alex from The Clockwork Orange enters. Whenever an ideological text says, all humanity unite in brotherhood, joy, and so on, you should always ask, okay, but are these all, really all, or is someone excluded? I think Alex, the delinquent from Clockwork Orange, identifies with this place of exclusion. And the great genius of Beethoven is that he literally staged this exclusion. All of a sudden, the whole tone changes into a kind of a carnivalesque rhythm. It's no longer this sublime beauty. Beethoven is not a cheap celebrator of the brotherhood of humanity and so on. We are one big happy family enjoying freedom, dignity and so on.
Enjoying that, are you, my darling?
The first part, which is falsely celebrated today, you hear it in all official events, is clearly identified with Beethoven as ideology, and then the second part tells the true story of that which disturbs the official ideology and of the failure of the official ideology to constrain it, to tame it. This is why Beethoven was doing something which may appear difficult to do. He was already, in a purely musical work, practicing critique of ideology.